You're listening to Inside Insight, the podcast that dives into the latest innovations and strategies in manufacturing, distribution, and Dynamics 365 Business Central. Brought to you by InsightWorks, this show features our hosts, Ryan and Emma, as they bring you expert conversations, industry insights, and practical advice to help you stay ahead in this constantly evolving world.
Okay, so if you're a business using Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, and you're, like many companies, finding that order fulfillment maybe isn't quite as smooth as you'd hoped. We've been taking a deep dive into, what causes those hiccups and how the kind of standard Business Central tools, sometimes they can't keep up when you really need to fulfill orders fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been looking at some really interesting stuff that really digs into, where Business Central's built-in order management, where it shines and where it maybe falls a little short when you're aiming for that really rapid fulfillment.
Right.
So that's really what we want to try to unpack in this deep dive.
Okay, so like right off the bat, what kind of jumped out at us is that Business Central, it has some basic order processing features, but the sources we looked at, they point out that, for a lot of companies, especially as they start to grow and speed becomes more critical, they find that those basic tools they don't cut it anymore.
Yeah, and one of the first kind of pain points that businesses hit is this thing called real-time order visibility, or I guess the lack of it.
Yeah.
So, for someone running a business, why is that like a fundamental problem?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you've got all these orders coming in.
Yeah.
And you need to know, right now, which ones can I actually ship?
Right.
Like, which ones do I have the inventory for? Because if you don't know that you're potentially wasting time, looking at orders that are just going to be stuck waiting for more stock to come in.
Absolutely. It's all about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that clear picture of what's ready to go today, you're losing valuable time.
Exactly. So, it's one thing to have a list of orders.
Right.
But then actually knowing which ones are good to go, that seems like it requires extra digging. And then you get into the whole issue of how do you actually allocate that stock to the right order. And the stuff we read, it really highlighted manual allocation as being a big bottleneck.
Yeah, and because you're missing that real-time overview of what's fulfillable, the standard Business Central system kind of forces you into this very manual way of assigning your inventory.
Right.
And that's, it's time-consuming. It's prone to human error.
Yeah.
Imagine someone sitting there having to match available stock to each order one by one. It's just not scalable for a business that's trying to move quickly.
Right. And if you are doing everything manually like that, it makes it really hard to know, which orders should actually be prioritized. Like which ones are the most important to get out the door, and the lack of, any automated prioritization. That was another big thing that the sources pointed out.
Yeah. So what happens is your warehouse team might end up just processing orders in the order they came in.
Right.
Regardless of whether, some are super urgent or some are from your most valuable customers, the system's not smart enough to tell them, hey, this one needs to go out first.
Yeah.
And that can mean, missing deadlines, potentially upsetting important clients.
Right. It's like the system isn't helping you make those smart decisions about what to focus on first.
Exactly. And it's not just about figuring out which orders to fulfill and allocating stock.
Yeah.
Even the movement of inventory within the warehouse itself, that can be a real headache in standard Business Central.
Yeah, so if you need to move stock between different locations in your warehouse to complete an order, it doesn't sound like the system does much to help you out there.
Yeah, you're basically on your own. It usually involves a lot of manual adjustments, creating separate transfer orders.
Right.
It's a bunch of extra steps that can really slow things down, even if it's not immediately obvious.
Oh, okay, and then the last thing we really wanted to touch on is back orders.
Right.
I mean, any business that deals with physical products, you're going to run out of stock sometimes.
Of course.
And so managing those back orders effectively is so crucial. What did we learn about the limitations of standard Business Central in that area?
Well, the tools that come built in for dealing with back orders, they're just not very sophisticated.
Okay.
So if you want to keep track of which orders are on back order, make sure they get fulfilled as soon as new stock arrives. You often have to do it manually.
Oh, wow.
Which, again, can lead to errors, can cause more delays for those customers who are already waiting.
Right. So it's a lot of manual work, a lot of potential for things to slip through the cracks.
Exactly. And that's not ideal when you're trying to keep your customers happy.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty significant friction points in the standard Business Central order fulfillment process,
Mm-hmm.
that limited real-time visibility, the manual allocation, no automated prioritization,
Right.
having to manually move stuff between warehouses, and then those basic back order management tools. Now, the good news is that the sources we look at, they pointed to something called the Order Fulfillment Worksheet as a possible solution to these problems.
Absolutely. The Order Fulfillment Worksheet is presented as this powerful tool that's designed to streamline those exact areas by bringing in automation and giving you much better visibility over the entire process. So let's dive into how it tackles that first hurdle we discussed, that real-time order visibility.
Yeah, so the problem we're trying to solve is not knowing instantly which orders you can actually ship out right now.
Exactly.
So how does the Order Fulfillment Worksheet give you that clear picture?
Well, it starts by giving you this single centralized view of all your sales orders and transfer orders.
Okay.
But here's the key difference. It actually calculates the fulfillment status of each order based on what's currently available in your inventory.
So it's not just a list of orders, it's telling you which ones you have the stuff for.
Exactly. You see exactly what you can ship today without having to go and check inventory records separately. It's a huge time saver.
That's awesome. And I think the source even mentioned that it categorizes orders based on their availability.
Yeah, it does. It breaks them down into categories like available for orders that are completely ready to be shipped, partially available if you have some of the items but not all of them,
Right.
and then not available for orders where you're waiting for stock to come in.
So instead of having to go through and figure all that out manually,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the system does it for you.
Exactly. And what that means for your business is that your team can immediately focus on those available orders.
Right.
They don't waste any time on orders that are going to be held up.
Yeah.
So it streamlines the entire process.
Yeah. No more guessing games. They just know what to work on.
Precisely. And that's how you boost efficiency and reduce delays.
Okay, so that's a big improvement over the standard setup.
Definitely.
Now let's talk about actually allocating the inventory,
Mm-hmm.
because we know the standard system can be very manual and error-prone.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the Order Fulfillment Worksheet automate that process?
So instead of someone having to manually go into each order and assign stock, the Order Fulfillment Worksheet does this for you.
Yeah.
It looks at your real-time inventory levels
Mhm.
and the priority of the orders, and it automatically allocates the stock accordingly.
So the system's making those decisions based on what's in stock and which orders are most important.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of it,
Ah,
and it's much more efficient and less prone to human error.
that makes a ton of sense. And I'm guessing that this automated allocation, it comes with some big benefits.
Absolutely. For one thing, it ensures that your allocations are always based on the most up-to-date inventory information.
Right.
So you're not making decisions based on old data.
Okay. And what about that issue of prioritization that we talked about earlier?
Well, that's where the intelligence of the Order Fulfillment Worksheet really comes in.
Okay.
It can actually prioritize orders based on things like how urgently they need to be shipped
Right.
and whether or not you have all the necessary inventory on hand.
So it's helping you focus on the orders that either need to go out ASAO or the ones that you can actually fulfill right away.
Exactly. It's
That's-
about working smarter, not harder. And it gets even better. The Order Fulfillment Worksheet can actually tell you if you need to transfer inventory between warehouse locations before you even start picking an order.
Wow.
So if you're missing some items in one location, but they're available in another,
Right.
the system will flag that for you proactively.
So you can move that inventory ahead of time and avoid any delays during the picking process.
Exactly. It's all about anticipating potential problems and smoothing out the entire workflow.
That is so smart.
Ah,
Okay, so we've talked about how the Order Fulfillment Worksheet gives you that real-time visibility.
mm-hmm.
It automates stock allocation. It prioritizes orders for you.
Yep.
Now let's get into the actual picking and packing that happens in the warehouse.
Okay.
Because we know that creating pick lists manually in standard Business Central, that can be a real time suck.
Absolutely.
So how does the Order Fulfillment Worksheet streamline that part of the process?
Well, the Order Fulfillment Worksheet, it takes care of creating those picking lists for you based on the inventory that's already been allocated to those prioritized orders.
So it's like it figures out what needs to be shipped,
Mm-hmm.
it assigns the stock, and then it tells the warehouse team exactly what to go and pick.
Exactly. And by automating this process, you're saving a ton of time, you're reducing the risk of errors,
Right.
and you're making things much more efficient for your warehouse team.
Okay, and this automated pick list generation, I think I remember reading that it comes with some additional benefits as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For instance, it can group items from multiple orders onto a single pick list.
Okay.
So instead of your team having to go back and forth picking for one order at a time, they can pick everything they need in one go.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It's like optimizing their route through the warehouse.
Exactly. It's all about maximizing efficiency.
I also seem to remember something about barcode scanning being part of this.
You're right. The pick lists that are generated by the Order Fulfillment Worksheet, they're designed to work seamlessly with barcode scanners. So your warehouse staff can just scan items as they pick them, which makes the process faster and more accurate.
So it's not just about speed. It's also about reducing those shipping errors.
Absolutely. And that ultimately leads to happier customers.
Right, because they're getting the right stuff on time.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's circle back to backorder management one last time.
Sure.
Because we know that's an area where Standard Business Central can be a little bit lacking.
Yeah, it can.
So remind us how the Order Fulfillment Worksheet improves the handling of those out-of-stock items.
Well, with the Order Fulfillment Worksheet, you get a much more proactive approach to back orders.
Okay.
So the system automatically identifies orders that can't be fully filled because you're missing some stock, and it flags them as back orders. Then when you get new inventory in, the system can automatically prioritize those back orders for fulfillment.
So instead of someone having to remember, oh yeah, we had a back order for this customer, let me go find it and release it, the system just takes care of it automatically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes all of that manual tracking and follow-up out of the equation, and it ensures that those back orders are dealt with quickly and efficiently.
And that, of course, means happier customers in the end.
Absolutely, because they're not waiting any longer than they have to.
So it sounds like the Order Fulfillment Worksheet really offers a lot of advantages over those standard Business Central tools.
It does.
You know, it gives you that real-time visibility into your orders. It automates stock allocation. It prioritizes things intelligently. It automates your pick lists. And it takes backorder management to a whole new level.
Exactly. It addresses all those key limitations that we talked about earlier.
And it's all about helping you fulfill orders faster and more accurately.
Absolutely.
So for anyone listening out there, if you're using Business Central and you really want to make your order fulfillment process as smooth and efficient as possible, you know, maybe take a closer look at solutions like the Order Fulfillment Worksheet, because they can really make a big difference.
They can. You know, those standard functionalities, they might work fine for some businesses, but if you're looking to really optimize things and provide a better customer experience, it's worth considering these more advanced tools.
Absolutely. Because ultimately, it's about saving time, reducing errors, and making your customers happy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's what it's all about. So for you listening, you know, how much could your business benefit from streamlining those order fulfillment processes? You know, think about the time you could save, the potential for increased customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to really consider.
It is. It's all about finding those areas where you can improve and making those smart investments in your business.
Absolutely. All right, well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into order fulfillment with Business Central.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.